Welcome back to Reclaiming America. I'm Greta, and I'm here with my co-host, Bill Moore. And Dan Roman is on screen, I hope. I can't tell from Dan.
Yeah, we can't see them. That's probably a good thing for you people.
We can't see you.
You can't see me.
What we have is a 1 by 2 inch square, Dan, of
Well,
us.
I don't know what you're looking at.
We look like the Littlefoot people or something. Yeah. So I have something I would like to share that I would like to vent right now. So I served in the military. Bill, you served in the military. We both went to university, right? And I paid my student loans off. So I want to apply to get the money I paid back. So does anybody know how I do that?
With
You
interest, by the way. We got to get interest too.
You got to become a
Plus
Democrat.
interest. They've had my money all this time, right?
Well, let's see. So I know exactly how much I had in student loans. It was about $9,800.
Yeah.
And that starting in 1981, I graduated in 85. Started paying them back. I think I had them paid back by early to mid 93, 94, somewhere in there. So I should get $9,800 plus interest for the last 31 years, give or take.
Being very greedy, sir.
That's pretty cool.
And let's say a fair interest rate. Well, the last I knew was the interest rate on student loans was 7-8%. That was well before it went nuts.
Oh, yeah.
So, 8% on $10,000 over 30 years, it's quite a chunk. I'll expect my check in the mail, Joe.
So there's a lot to this, right? If you think about it. And my friend in Chicago who wants to know why it's suddenly raining money on immigrants, and they've been trying to get money in South Side, West Side Chicago for just for infrastructure and public facilities, whatever. And they've been told year after year, there's no money. Now the magic money falls out of the sky. Yep.
And all these people who went off to get advanced degrees in basket weaving and other very, very important topics.
Yes.
And they can't find jobs.
Yes.
But they decided to go to the best universities in the world at the most expensive operations they can, and they wonder why they can't pay back. See, that's a disadvantage of the government making loans. When the banks used to do it, they would look at you and they say, okay, the job you're looking at will pay $30,000, $40,000 a year as a regular basis. You can borrow X amount of dollars because that's all you're going to be able to pay back. With the federal government, the sky's the limit.
Yep.
Did you see the one on, it was a YouTube video, and it was a woman with a master's degree in women's studies.
Oh, yeah, I've heard. Yeah.
She has well over 6 figures in student loan debt, and she's making $35,000 a year as a social worker type job. And that's realistically with that type of degree, that's what you're going to get. And you think about it from, the schools are ripping these kids off too, because to charge 6 figures for a degree that the schools know is likely going to get you paid 35, 40, maybe 50K with a master's, no less. I blame the schools for that, but then the government's handing out the money like it's
the schools
water.
Started jacking their prices and paying their instructors, tons of money because they knew they could keep raising it and people would borrow the money from the feds and the feds would give it to them.
Yeah.
So you've got people that are professors that are earning, 6 figures and they teach a class a semester.
Well, Pocahontas was teaching one class and making $500,000 a semester.
That's true.
And I mean, you look at that and you go, how does that make any sense at all from a business standpoint of the school, right? I mean, I get why they're doing it because they want her name, but you're paying somebody $500,000. And if you really cared about the students and their education, you don't be paying that out to one person and then expecting the students to cover it with student loans that are going to bankrupt them. I mean, I think it's a legitimate beef that the students have, once they get out. If like that girl, 6 figures in debt, I don't know what it works out to a monthly payment. They never said, but I got to believe it's several $100s. I mean, you look at it from a mortgage standpoint. that she's going to have to pay back over decades. You know, my student loan payment was about $100 a month, and I paid mine off quick.
Yeah.
You know, it, to me, it's a scam. You know, you know, you look at things like the colleges are getting this money in tuition. How much of it is going back to the politicians as donations? You know, because they
That's a
do.
question I don't have an answer to.
Yeah, I don't know the numbers, but I know damn well that they donate back. So it just becomes a cycle, right? And the people that are paying are these kids who are coming out of college with worthless degrees or next to them with multi six-figure debt, and it's a never no win situation. And now to try and fix it, their answer is, well, we're just going to wipe all the debt out and let, you know, poor little, I don't know, Peter Plumber, who's never went to school and makes a good living, now he's going to have to cover that debt through his taxes. That's not right.
Well, yeah, but that would be almost nice if you took it from the point of view that they're being altruistic. But the reality is they're trying to buy votes.
Oh,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yes. So,
Without question, that's what they're trying to do.
so where does one apply for a job with a master's degree in women's studies? I wonder. What do you think?
I actually know
Esposito?
the main job they go into is social work. What was that? I missed that, Bill.
I said Esposito.
Esposito.
If you want a job in women's studies.
That would be Bill Moore at.
No. Oh, no.
I mean, I know for a fact most of them end up going into social work of some sort because that's where they're
They
going to end
do.
up. You know.
Doesn't surprise me. We live next to a couple that the boy went to Oberlin and degree in music, and the little girl went to one of those real crazy liberal for drama, for a degree in drama, and they're both social workers. That makes sense.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
wife's girlfriend's son is still trying to become an actor. And he went up to Brown University to become an actor.
Isn't that brilliant?
Yeah, and he's absolutely a brilliant unemployed actor.
I bet he's going to get one too.
Well, that's the thing. Like you talked about music, right? Getting a degree in music's phenomenal. That's awesome. Your realistic expectations of earnings, you know, I mean, sure, Elton John makes millions of dollars a year, or Paul McCartney. How many of them are in the world? The realistic is you're going to have two choices with that degree. Most likely, you're going to become a music teacher,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or you're going to become behind the scenes, maybe a producer or something like that. Again, you can make a decent living as a producer or a sound engineer or something like that, but there's not a lot of those jobs.
No.
And the ones that do pay well are really rare. You know, I mean, the top producers, you know, Brendan O'Brien gets millions of dollars to produce an album, but he's one guy. There's 1,000 other people that are making 40,000 a year at most, and they've got a master's degree. You know, I blame the parents too, by the way. I think our generation, the boomer generation, really started this. You know, we wanted our kids to have nothing but the best. I'm as guilty of it as anyone. And I think it started with us and then just snowballed where if you wanted to go get a music, you know, a master's in music or women's studies or whatever, we'd tell them, sure, go ahead. You can do anything you want. But as a parent, our job was to say, but understand you're not going to make $100,000 a year if you do that. You want to pursue your passion, go for it. But here's the realistic world out there. And I think that's been lost too.
Yeah, but I think you're heading in the right direction with that kind of information. But the real issues are still the government needs to get out of student loans and
Oh, I
let it
agree
go to the
completely.
private sector again.
Which is how I got it.
And unfortunately, if you were dumb enough to take those loans at $100,000 a year, you own it. But in some defense of parents, and I only say that from a certain knowledge, the parents are no longer allowed to see the grades of
Right.
students or their courses.
That's true.
That's a
They've
fair
been
point.
cut out of that loop completely. It's up to the child to decide if he wants to share it or she wants to share it.
And that's on purpose, right?
Oh,
Because
sure, universities are doing it on purpose.
absolutely. And I remember, my youngest she'll be 28 this year. When she was in college last, she had to give permission for me to see her grades.
Yep.
And she was even upset by it. Well, he's paying for it. Why, you know? And it wasn't like, if she had failed a class, I wasn't going to yell at her or anything like that. I'm like, all right, well, you failed a class. What was the problem? Because I can tell you right now, I failed 4 classes in college. They all happened to be the same one, pre-calculus.
Ugh.
I was a master at failing that. 4 times I failed it. And the other reason, the 4th time, the teacher, and I failed it, but she was so kind because I needed it for my accounting degree that I've never used. She gave me the D out of pity.
Aw.
She's like, you don't get this. She did everything she could for me, but I couldn't do it. So, but you translate that to now, one, the help wouldn't be available, and two, my dad knew what was going on. He tried to help, but my parents would never have known.
Mhm.
It's
Why do you need calculus for accounting?
I want to know that to this day. Pre-calc, not even full calculus,
Right.
pre-calculus. I can
Yeah.
add, subtract, multiply, and divide. I can do like that.
Right.
Calculus.
But again, mathematics is an exercise for the mind to make you sharper.
Well, that's why I am the way I am. That explains everything.
Did you just call me a dullard?
Uh, if the shoe, whatever that term is,
In this particular
Yes, you
case,
do it.
we won't go there.
the shoe fits and fits well when it came to that. But
But
uh,
anyway, there is a simple solution that someone's put out there. If you want your loans forgiven, sign up for 4 years of the military.
Yep.
how? Okay, so as to ex-militaries,
Yep.
if they implemented that, does that benefit the military?
Yeah, their recruiting is down in the basement.
Mm-hmm. But you're getting high quality recruits too, right? They're coming out of the
Well,
college.
you got to remember that just because you take them doesn't mean they stay.
Right.
They
But
still got to go through boot camp and whatever other training, and they've got to be successful. So part of that deal is you're going to have to be a successful soldier or sailor or Marine, whatever it's going to be
For 4 years.
for 4 years.
Yeah.
And then you can go home or somebody want to stay.
Yeah. Happens.
Yeah, I mean, but they're going in as an officer, right?
No, they're not. They're
No.
going in as
Oh.
private,
Enlisted.
unless they went to ROTC.
really?
Anyway.
So college degree. So this was the proposal that was out there. That's why I'm asking because I don't know. They're going to go in as a private,
Right.
As-
E1, let's put it that way.
as
They
opposed.
probably make more money than they would on the outside.
Probably with
Okay.
a lot better benefits. They'll eat three hots in the
Three
car.
hots on the cot, right?
Healthcare, dental care.
Because
Yeah.
one of the things that I had an issue with that was because I figured if you have a college degree, you're going in as an officer primarily, right? And I mean that's one of the requirements, isn't it?
In some fields, that is true.
Yeah.
But you're going to end up.
But there's only so many officers you need.
Yeah, but you need them in certain areas to begin with. And secondly, just because you come in with a college degree, there might be some opportunities to go to OCS, Officer Candidate School.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But you got to meet the needs of the service, and you
That's
got
right.
whatever. There's a lot going with that. But you're going in as an enlisted, and you're going to work your way up. If you get lucky, maybe warrant.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it to be honest with you. I think it benefits everyone, including the person that's serving. Right? That you get a nice education in college. I'll give that, but you're going to get, I think, an even better one in the military. I would argue.
I would agree.
You're
Life-
gonna
life
grow
lessons
up,
anyway.
You're going to learn independence. You're going to learn
Yep.
reliance and working with others.
Yep.
I mean, I've always been an advocate for mandatory service anyway. Says the guy who didn't serve. But I've always thought there should be at least 2 years. It's the least you can do for your country. So, again, I'm a complete hypocrite. I freely admit it. But, I wish it's one of my regrets, as we've talked about before. I wish I had gone in and at least done, at least a 4-year enlistment. But I just wonder how would it impact everything? It's these kids would be going into the military at 22.
Yeah.
You go to the military up to about 40.
Right. I'm saying it's a win. I'm trying to, paint it as a win. they're coming out of college. I don't know about you, but the last college kids I've been interviewing that are first time looking for jobs, their expectations are beyond unrealistic.
Yeah, they want to start at the top and work down.
Yeah.
They want to start at the CEO and never
Right.
leave it. Are you kidding me? Oh, I have to show up to work at Monday at 8 o'clock. I no, I have to stop at Starbucks first. I'll be in at 10 o'clock. There's an old. It was a millennial interview. It's God, probably 8 9 years ago. It was on Facebook, and it was highlighted it. She was like, the guy wanted to start at 8 a.m. She's like, I'll come in at 10:45 because I have to sleep in and all this. This whole thing. It was hilarious, but it was also real because at the time I was hiring and I was getting these kids coming out of college. They would I would ask them the most basic things. I'll tell you a story. So I put out to hire a trainer, personal trainer, and I was using Indeed. I was using all the Monster, all of them, and I was not expecting the world out of a resume. Give me a decent resume that's been spell checked and a cover letter. That's all I'm asking. I don't care how great it is. I was getting things like, yo, I'm a good trainer, hire me. No phone number, no email, no way to contact them. Just, yo, hire him. Because it's sent through the boards, right? Through the Monster board, right? So that unless they have something there. And I remember sitting back then and going, oh my God. And it's gotten worse since then. And then you'd interview them and well, I'm going to start out at $40 an hour. And I'm like, no. It's just, I don't know. It's the expectations, and sometimes these are kids with college degrees in, physical therapy or something like that. And they didn't know squat.
But what's fascinating to me is that the kids that are drawing the big bucks didn't finish college. Okay, my niece, she decided to drop out within 5 credits of graduating. Yeah. And she went to become a dental hygienist. They couldn't throw enough money at her. They could not throw enough money at this kid. Okay.
Mhm.
A 4-day work week.
Yeah.
Big hourly benefits, everything. Because hell, I'm not denigrating women's studies, you understand, okay? But I can't imagine where you would go with that. Whereas everybody needs dental hygienists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to a man this morning on the radio with Nick, and he was discussing the fact how schools are now starting to shift to hands-on training, because that's where the money is. And Nick said to him, well, how old are you and have you made a good life? He says, well, I've been doing plumbing for 40 years. I have a Camaro a 65 Mustang. I do world cruises twice a year. I've got a nice home, and I fly a plane. But aside from that, I guess I'm doing good.
Yeah.
And he's a plumber.
Yeah.
And my son's another example. He's 35 years old. I advised him not to go to college. I had taught him IT, hardware, and all that. He worked under me starting at 8 years old. He's doing quite well for himself right now, with no college degree, and loves his job and has no debt. I mean, my advice to kids these days that I talk to that reach out to me is, if you're looking for something that requires a college degree, like let's say you want to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Yes, then you need to go to college. But if you're not sure what you want to do, because back in the day it was go get a liberal arts degree, right? Because at least you had a college degree. I tell them now, don't waste your money on college. Go, especially as someone who was hiring as recently as 3-4 years ago. I look for people that can do the job. I don't care what the paper you have is. You can. I'll share another story I had.
I think what you're going to see now, because that extends in a lot of areas, and I'll take it to the political realm right now. People have stopped saying about, what is your beliefs? Because everybody speaks conservative beliefs, and I believe in X, Y, and Z, and then they get in there and they don't do a tenth of what they promise.
Right.
So, with the latest trend in politics is becoming, what have you done? Don't tell me what you believe.
Right.
I'll judge you on what you've accomplished or what you've demonstrated.
Almost like someone who was going to be interviewed for a job, huh?
Yeah,
What's your experience? Shocking. And on that note, guess what?
must be
What?
time for a break.
It's time for our very first break. So
Woohoo.
we will step aside for a couple minutes and come right back on Reclaiming America.
Welcome back to Reclaiming America. We're having a great discussion here. We finished discussing student loans and those solutions, but there is a topic that I think is worthy of some of our time, and it spells TRUMP.
Heard that name before. Okay.
And
I was going to say
basically,
JAMES first. As
well,
in,
no, we got to do the
Yeah.
Trump man, and just
you
and
didn't get
how
what
he's
I was
doing in
doing
New
with that.
York and how he's doing down in Georgia. And as a matter of fact, we might even want to mention that tomorrow he's due to kick Miss Haley's butt
Oh,
in
well,
a
we're going to
primary.
have to get to that. Maybe next segment we'll talk about that. But let's circle back to use Pasaki's old thing. Yeah, what I was referring to is Letitia James, and what she pulled off the governmental overthrow of the century, in a manner of speaking. For those that don't know, what we're having a little fun with
And you've
is
been living under a rock for
yeah,
the
I
last.
mean, well, there are people sometimes, unfortunately. He got fined, I think it was 355
Yes.
million, by a judge in the state of New York for doing what everyone has done in real estate for time eternal and will be doing, by the way, for time eternal.
For a victimless crime where actually all the purported victims testified for him.
And said, we didn't use his numbers.
And we would do it again.
We do our own assessment.
You know, it's
Made money.
and where did he get 355 million from in damages?
Willis asked for 250, and I guess she saw, according to what I've read, saw his bank records and how much cash he had on hand and decided to up the ante to
Well,
350.
what their goal was, they didn't know he had the money he did have. They're trying to get to a point where he has no money to run.
Mhm.
Right.
But, he's got a $700 million investment in one building down in New York. And that's his part of the investment, which I hear rumors that he's going to sell and pay off their 355 million. Might even help his poor kids pay the 4 million fine they got.
Right. His children.
Yeah, but the best part is he's the IPO for Truth Social's going out, and he's about to make $4 billion just on that. So he's going to end up having the last laugh. Yeah. So the IPO came out. Well, it hasn't come out yet, but that's what they're talking about. And Truth Social's going public and they're predicting 10 billion, and he owns 40% of it. So he's going to get a nice little check very shortly for 4 billion.
Well, good, because he needs it to pay the state of New York.
Yeah.
You know, and really, you know, I am an ex-New Yorker, as is Bill, and we know how New York works, but this is really backfiring on them bad.
They found a law that they twisted for one person, and the unintended consequences are people are running, and people with money are running for the state before they be the next target.
True.
Well, I'm proud to say I took my business out of New York in 2019, so I was a little ahead of the curve. But
Wise of you.
Well, the best line for this whole thing was the governor, who in her infinite wisdom, trying to calm down the big spenders that didn't want to stay anymore, turns around and announces to the world that you guys shouldn't worry about that. This was wholly designed just to get Trump. And we'll never use it against the rest of you. It was just strictly for Trump.
Unbelievable.
I think they should record that and play that in the Court of Appeals.
oh, New York State Court of Appeals isn't going to do squat with this. It's going to have to go to the Supremes. SCOTUS is going to be the one that overturns this.
I would guess.
But that's exactly what they need. They don't need to present a case. They just need to show that video, because she literally admitted this was a political persecution. There's no other way to take that. I don't care how you try and spin it.
I wonder if they're going to give this poor man interest on the money he's got to give them. Because in order to file the appeal, New York state law says he has to pay the fine first.
Yeah.
And I also think they added another $8 million to the fine to cover costs of fighting the appeal should he lose.
That's unbelievable.
And this is the group of people that are, they hide behind January 6th, saying that was an overthrow of the government and all this stuff. They're proving they want a banana republic,
But
because
you know what? Honestly, in a way, the Supreme Court, they've been maligned really badly, right? But in a way, I kind of like it because they just tossed the whole we're taking Trump off the ballot,
Right.
right? And now he's coming back with I had to give him $355 million just to get here.
And his donations have gone up. And by the way, in 24 hours, and I have not checked it recently, but 24 hours after the fine came in, there was a GoFundMe of $146,000 sitting for him there.
it's just
So,
like he needs it, I know, but it's I don't they're not stupid people, but they got to be talking behind the scenes going, we're martyring him like crazy. At some point they're going to
because
go, we got to stop.
they live in a realm, Dan, where all the same people, they're in the same bubble.
Right.
And the same bubble all agrees. They don't realize that there's a world outside the bubble.
Yeah, it's an echo chamber that's causing it, right? Is they're all
That
like,
better term, echo
yeah,
chamber.
we're gonna get him. We're gonna make sure he can't run.
And look
And-
how smart we are.
Yeah, and every time it backfires on them, they're doubling down over and over and over again. Um, the other side of it is they're also casting doubt when he wins. I'm not even going to say if at this point, to claim he's not a legitimate president. That'll be their next argument if when he wins is, well, he should never have been on the ballot. He should, he's a criminal. All this stuff.
You know, and the other thing that they're fighting with to argue the flight leaving of people, aside from the billionaires, the regular middle class heading out the door.
Yeah.
Their answer is they're only leaving to move to a warmer climate.
Mm-hmm.
My
Yeah,
response is California.
exactly.
Well, my good friend, my good buddy Andrew Cuomo came out with that one back in the day.
Lord.
And now I will tell you, part of the reason I moved was for a warmer climate. I'm not going to hide that.
That
But-
would be a factor for any normal person, but
But-
it's not the major reason.
It was absolutely not the major reason. Taxes was my number one reason.
There's number one.
You
How
know.
many people could afford to live in that environment on a reduced income, which is retirement?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but being a former educator yourself, the way it normally works with the teachers' pensions in the state of New York is they retire at 55 usually or somewhere in that area, and then they all move to Florida or Texas or wherever because they don't want to pay the New York State taxes.
No.
So they're getting a
Oh,
New York
I see.
State teacher pension, but they're living in another state.
But you see, you're wrong. Because being on a New York State teacher pension, it is only tax-free if I stay in New York
I
State.
know that part of it, but the cost of living far outweighs whatever the difference in taxes is.
Well, I would give you my first example in North Carolina was when I walked in and I purchased this place and they apologized to me because my taxes were going to be $3,000 a
Isn't
year.
that hilarious?
And I'm thinking to myself, the house I just left was 16 and that was with some things I got being a veteran and whatever else.
Oh, yeah.
I tried to keep the smile from hitting either.
Oh, yeah.
What I pay in a year for taxes in North Carolina for property and school was what we paid in a month in
Yeah.
New York. So again, whether the income tax is, tax free on all that, you're coming out far ahead. And that's North Carolina where we have things like income tax and all that. You go to a state that's tax free, Nevada, New Hampshire. New Hampshire gets a ton of New York teachers. So yeah, they're still paying taxes to New York on that pension, but it's a fraction of everything else. So they come out way ahead.
Well ahead. There's no argument.
And it's, again, then you have brain drain, and my point has always been, I don't like the teachers unions, especially in New York, because they're bankrupting the state. They have all the power. The teachers unions in New York State run that state. And anybody who tells you otherwise is lying. I could see it happening every single day. I lived in the Capitol. And I have no problem with teachers getting paid or any of that. But when you get it to the point where it's literally bankrupting the state. At some point, it's going to collapse.
What people don't understand, and having been an administrator and a teacher in New York and North Carolina, you can see the difference because if you look at what goes on in New York, you have 746 school districts, I think is the number. They all do individual contracts with their teachers.
Okay.
So what ends up happening, because the teachers are the largest body generally in any building, in any city, they go out and they work for the candidate they want to win mayor or whatever else. And then those candidates owe them and they're the ones that do their contracts.
Yep.
So they're negotiating the contract with, and they will look at them. And I was on an executive board and I heard them tell somebody, you know, if you don't do what we need, the next time our 100 teachers that made your phone calls for 2 weeks, we'll be doing it for the other side. So, but in North Carolina, salaries are paid from the state. So they don't have that ability to narrow down small groups and isolate.
Yeah, they wield a tremendous amount of power. I mean, NYSERDA, who's the main teachers union in the Capital District, I worked for a school district for a couple of years, and I saw what they did. And the district I worked at was in a hill. It was called a hill town. The town was broke. I mean, it's farm country. They don't have much money, but they are expecting those teachers to make the same amount of money as, say, a teacher in Albany, which is, you know, it's not a huge city, but it's a decent sized city. And it just financially, the tax base couldn't afford it. But yet they got it through.
Yeah, but what you also have in the cases of all those small districts, well, let's take New York City, the largest school district probably in the country. Okay. They paid their teachers an average of 20% less than what we paid in Yonkers. So we had no problem getting teachers.
I'll bet.
I mean, we just advertised something and we were bordered the city. So it was just a matter of them driving a couple of, you know, half hour more north and they're there, but we could pick of teachers.
And that's the other problem, right? Is, you know, where I worked was in Bern. They had a tough time getting good teachers. They had some great ones, but they had a tough time getting good ones because Yonkers would pay more, Albany paid more. They're going to go there.
See, now in North Carolina, the teacher salary is set by the state.
Yes.
However, there is something that causes a change, and many people do not know that. Each district gives what they call a supplement.
Okay.
So twice a year, the teachers get a bonus of anywhere between 1.5% and 7% of their salary.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. Now, if you live in Durham, you're getting 7% twice a year.
Oh, sure.
If you're living in a little town like where I was in Edenton, you got 1.5% twice a year.
I can see
Where
that.
are you going as a teacher?
Probably doing.
You're going to go to where the money is, especially coming out of school, fresh out of school. And then the other thing you deal with is everybody is vying for minority teachers. They are, and that's a reality.
Yeah.
They don't graduate enough minority teachers anywhere. In New York State, when I left teaching in North Carolina, there were 380 graduate black educators coming out of all the schools in the state. And there were 2,000 jobs.
Wow.
So they could pretty much go where they wanted to and pick the places they wanted to go. You know, and subject-wise, in certain languages, certain courses guarantee you work wherever you want to go. You know, if you're IT, if you were a language teacher, ESL. But those are issues. And North Carolina needs to address that because what's ended up happening is the smaller districts just can't raise the money to keep it.
Exactly.
The only reason people come there is because they're coming home most of the time.
Right.
They're coming home to live with mom and daddy, their boyfriend, girlfriend lives there, whatever. And they come there. The other issue for the teachers in many cases is, especially look where we live now, they can't afford to move in here.
And that's what we saw in the district I was in. Is it's rural country. It's all farmland, so you had to live towards Albany because the district was about 30 miles outside Albany. They would live in Albany, and they're getting, you know, the salary from Bern. It just didn't add up, and this was 12 years ago. It's having it at the state level, like North Carolina does. That is one solution. This NYSERDA would never go for it. I'll tell you right now.
And I will give you credit to the town, for example, Chowan, where I worked. They had trouble getting teachers to come to a small town. I mean, the whole county was 15,000 people.
It's tiny.
Tiny. But what they did was they built subsidized housing for teachers. They put in a row of I forget, it was 8 to 10 of small apartments.
That's cool.
and then they rented them at salaries that the teachers could afford.
Right.
You know, and I think you could be married, but not necessarily with kids, or you could be single. So, and that was very helpful because in Chowan, the sidewalks were rolled up about 6:30 at night.
Yeah, my brother taught at the college there. I know.
So,
And you know, it's
and
interesting to kind of bring it back
neighbor
to
next week, you could actually go visit.
Yeah, exactly.
what we first started talking about with the whole Trump cases. These problems that we're talking about now are only going to be exacerbated by them driving business out. Because, you know, say what you want about Trump, but when you look at the amount of revenue the state gets from his businesses in various taxes, he's going to pull out. He's going to pull everything out of there. It would be insane not to.
Everybody else
And
is.
don't forget,
Exactly.
though, he's lost control of those businesses for 3 years.
Yep.
Does it? You and I both know he may not be running them. He's running them. You know, it's a phone
But
call
they're going to be
away.
a court-appointed person to run them for him.
Okay, yeah. He'll still be running them, Bill. Come
But he
on.
can sell them.
Sure you can. Well,
Or
if
that, and that would be potentially even
Oh.
worse. You know, and you're looking at the absolute draining of businesses from New York City primarily, but the whole state now. Remington's leaving after 200 odd years, 150 odd 200 years.
I saw that.
Yeah.
That's a
It's still in the
huge.
town.
So they're from Ilion, New York, if I remember right. It's a small town. That town's now gutted.
Right.
There's going to be no jobs there. So think about it from the sense of not only are you losing all the tax revenue from the company, but you're losing the income taxes from the people that work there, all of that.
And they're going to end up being on, I hate to use the term on the dole, but they're going to end up collecting
Yeah.
unemployment and
Yeah.
probably other assistance because there's just no place for them to work.
A triple whammy.
It's going to mirror what happened up near Plattsburgh when the base closed. There were no
Yes.
jobs, you know, and the people don't realize the Adirondacks in New York is one of the poorest places in the country. You know, you have one of two options. You either go on the dole, as you said, or you become a corrections officer, because that's about all there is right now.
You work in a casino.
Or but the Indians own the casinos. The state don't get anything out of that. So, but it's sad because Hochul can say what she wants, trying to keep these businesses. Anyone who's got a half a brain as a businessman, and if you have a successful business, you got a brain, businessman or woman, but they're going to leave. And I think Remington is going to start the stampede, and Trump once Trump goes, you're going to see huge money leaving.
I just want to see the stock market move.
Do you?
Yeah, I just want to see what happens.
Because
It's not that far-fetched.
No, it isn't. And especially when they keep considering putting on a 0.1% transfer tax on every stock you sell.
Right.
yeah, but where are they going to go? They were talking about Jersey. That was the last time.
And that's not how.
That's
No.
that's the worst thing. And on that note, kids, guess what?
It's time.
It's time for another break. So, Bill, you take us out this time.
Everybody, don't go anywhere because the best is yet to come.
Woo woo.
Reclaiming America. Be back soon.
What do you mean? I'm still here.
Welcome back to Reclaiming America. I'm Greta. I'm here with my co-host Bill and Dan. We're glad to be back, and I just want to ponder what my life would be like as an immigrant now versus in the 1800s. What do you think, Bill?
I think those of them coming across Ellis Island when they got off there illegally, I'm not sure they were met by a bus, taken down to a luxury hotel, put up there with the family, given all the food they need or clothing that they might require, and $1,000 gift card renewable so they could cover some of their expenses. Must be tough.
Must be.
I think back, my grandfather immigrated in 1896. So, and became a waiter and a maitre d' and all that stuff. And I'm like, he had to earn everything he ever had.
Yep.
And now they're literally handing them housing, security, because they have security,
Yep.
private security, food, clothing, cell phones,
Wait,
all of it.
what? Private
They have
security?
private
Yeah, to
security.
protect-
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So if they're staying at, say, a hotel or whatever, they have private security to protect them.
It's a new
Not the
every day.
police, private security. And again, it's look, I don't begrudge those people individually for the most part. I mean, there's some criminals in there, obviously, but they're looking to live the dream, right? They were in a bad place. They want to come here and live the American
minute.
dream. I don't fault them
Wait
for
a
that.
minute.
Huh?
Wait a minute. The numbers crossing that southern border, just a damn few of them coming from the Spanish-speaking countries
Well,
down there.
I'm trying to be polite.
When there are 22,000 military-aged Chinese male coming across that border,
You just
and they're coming across the border, mostly men coming from the Arab countries around the world. So yeah, where are they being discriminated against and coming here? There's a
Bill.
problem.
I was trying to be nice. Come on.
And I'm trying to be factual.
You just can't give an inch, my friend. I'm talking about the families in those. You're absolutely right, though. I mean, 20,000 Chinese fighting age.
22,000.
And oh, by the way, the Chinese are buying land around our military bases like crazy. Gee,
Yep.
those two
And our
couldn't have
farmland.
anything to do with each other, right?
And our farmland.
And our farmland. And it's, I this whole situation, and I heard this week, again, we don't trust polling completely, but the number one issue is now the border. It's overcome the economy.
Yep.
Well, look, if Biden is actually finally admitted this week that he can actually take executive actions to cut down the flow, what he's been denying for 3 years, and what he did the first day was take out everything Trump did.
Mhm.
What do you want to bet he re-implements everything Trump did and then takes credit for it?
No, he
Oh,
will
yeah.
just implement what he absolutely has to.
Because that's
He's
it.
like-
Yeah, but that's exactly what he did
But
with
you're
the
not. Did you pick the point up with Mexico?
which part? There's a few things.
Mexico has agreed to work with him about controlling the border because they don't want Trump.
That part I didn't hear. I
Oh
heard.
yeah,
I
that was
heard-
earlier this week. They've got some agreements with Biden to try and cut the flow a little bit, so he can say he's got successes. Because they're afraid if Trump takes over, they're going to go back to the old rules.
Well, I do know they're looking for a handout. Also, Mexico is from us to help with handling the overflow.
Not only that, Trump said, everything you import to us will have 100% tariff. Take care of that problem.
Yeah, it's a nightmare situation. And I got to tell you, I blame both parties at this point. All you hear is from the Republican side is bluster at this point. There's not a lot they can do at the federal level. I will grant you that. But who controls the purse strings in the House? Force him into an executive action, which I think they're doing. I think that's a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
And I think he's just going to re-implement Trump's policies. I equate it to, the medication for diabetes, right? Trump's plan was, I'm going to make it for $35. And when he was president, and then it went away. Congress wouldn't pass it. Then all of a sudden, Biden proposes the exact same thing. And it's the greatest idea since sliced bread. And it passed. I think it's going to be the exact same situation. And then, what can he do with executive action?
Just about anything he wants because the Congress is incapable of fighting it.
Incapable or unwilling?
Both.
Yeah, I argue at this point it's unwilling. Yeah, there was a great statement that I heard, which is the Democrats want the immigrants for voting and the Republicans want them for cheap labor.
Actually,
I can't disagree with that.
most of the big businesses now are under Democratic
Well,
control.
they are, but
Could be a real issue for the Republican side, but Democrats want it for both sides of that fence.
Right.
The other thing I'm hearing, by the way, budget-wise, which is an interesting issue for the first time in a long time, should they have to shut the budget down and go shut down the country? For the first time, the military will not be paid. We just got a thumbs up from somebody.
from yourself, you gave yourself a thumbs up.
Oh, I'm not near a button. Somebody gave us a thumbs up.
Yeah, no, the software picked up that you said something awesome about yourself, so it picked it up.
Okay. What's interesting,
AI kicked in, my friend.
under the law, if they don't pass that separate military funding, which they do every year,
Mhm.
they haven't. When they shut the government down, the military spigot gets cut off. They don't get paid.
We always got paid.
Yeah, but that's because it was always a
After
separate
the fact.
appropriation. A separate appropriation was passed.
Yeah.
Right.
They haven't done that yet. So if they shut them down, the military goes on unemployment too.
Which would be horrible. I mean, you would not. I mean, I don't care about, sorry, the colonels and the generals. No offense. But the privates, I mean, they don't make that much to begin with. And
Ooh, you'd be surprised what they don't make.
Yeah.
you just never give an inch, Bill.
No, I don't.
So I wanted to note it. He's the one fighting against the privates. I'm in their support.
All right, go for it. Show your privates.
Oh, dude.
You
Fam-
Oh,
walked
man.
into that one.
Greta, will you smack him? You're right next door. But it would be a terrible shame if that happens. I actually don't think that would ever fly because it would be a political nightmare for both sides. They'll manage to find a way to pay the military. And honestly, I think it should all the government financing should be separate bills. The military should be treated as a separate budget. Yes, you have your overall budget, but each line item or each department, however
That's
you
what
want
the
to
12
go.
sections of it are.
Yeah. But
Specific
they don't.
sections.
They're all bundled together though, right? In the end, when you look at the federal budget, they wheel it in on literally stacks of boxes at this point. It's kind of like the income tax code, and we had Dale Falwell on last week. They need to do at the federal level what he was saying at the state, cut everything to zero and build back up.
And zero-based budgeting I've done before, and it's a great way of doing things. Because right now, what you're doing, and Greta will swear, we both in the military, you spend about 10 months of the year begging for certain things, repair parts or whatever else you needed because it was hard to get it.
This is true.
And then the last 2 months of the calendar year, the spigot's open because they got to spend that money so they can ask for more.
Yep.
Well, that
And
happens
no
at
one's
every level.
people saying, let's start zero. You made 100 million last year, so you need 7% more. We
Yep.
don't say how do you prove the first 100 million.
Yep.
And we need to do that.
Well, I mean, every corporation does the same thing. My budget was on fiscal year, right? It was January to December. And I would keep everything looking great through November and then go nuts buying stuff in December. Because if I did use it or lose it, that was the thing.
We used to call it Project Green Street.
And so, you bought all your servers and all that stuff. You bought stuff you didn't even need. Because if you
Yeah.
if
We
you
had to
didn't
keep
spend
stack
it,
of
it was
recs.
getting cut.
In the last quarter, there was a
Yeah,
stack of Rex on
always.
my desk.
Yeah.
Always.
And as soon as that message came out, they moved right out.
Yep.
Especially all that stuff we lost in the field.
Absolutely.
Yes, that was important.
Yes, absolutely.
We lost a few billion over in Afghanistan in the field.
You
But
think?
anyway. All right. We have about a minute and a half left, kids. So, Bill, tell everybody where they can see us.
Watch now. Here we are. Spotify. You got me. I usually hit you with that.
I know. That's why I did it.
At Spotify, we have YouTube, we have Rumble, we have Apple. Am I missing anything?
You got all for the show. You got
TikTok.
TikTok.
and YouTube Shorts for the
YouTube.
dailies, but which Bill is going to make a strong effort to get some fresh material out for the dailies, which are loved, by the way. You started getting quite the following on
was my
TikTok. It's because I watch the comments that come in, and you're getting a little following there, Bill.
Yeah, but you know something? What happened was that the star lost his IT guy and had to go back and do it all.
Oh, poor baby.
Ooh.
Well, his
I'm thinking about getting a little clown suit and joining him for his shorts.
Sure.
And then every time he tells one of the bizarre stories of the current administration, I could, swing my little clown
works.
thing, like the
We-
court
we-
jester. Yeah.
We can film it anyway.
Actually, what would be
Oh,
awesome is, Greta, if you made a few shorts too, because you would be amazing at it.
Yeah.
Just
What on
saying.
earth would I talk about without y'all?
Anything you want. That's the beauty of it. The worst that can happen is you'll get us banned, which is going to happen anyway. So,
Not by me.
oh, we just came off a strike, Bill. Don't get us another one. All right, 30 seconds. Wrap it up.
Okay, wrap it up. Everybody is reclaiming America. We've had a great show. We've covered a lot of great topics, and we're looking forward to talking to you in a week.
Bye, y'all.
We'll see you then. Have a great one.